Hey yo, it's Guido coming at you with a Tactics Talk tank review. We've got the Object 705 today, a Tier 9 Russian heavy tank. See it right there in my garage. As usual, we'll do an overview. We will take a look at the tech tree, some of the ins and outs for the tank and upgrades on it. We'll do a comparison between it and some of its competitors and peers. We'll take a look at the model on tanks.gg, talk about its armor layout. We'll look at my setup, my current stats. I got about 50 battles in it now. And then I've got 3 examples for you at the end. So let's get started. Starting with the overview, you can see I've got it called up here for the statistics on it. And this is another blueprint tank. It's one of the versions of the Object 705 heavy tank, and it says only existed in blueprints. But the good news is we have one in our game to drive around with and blow things up. It was advertised as a rear turreted tank along the lines of a 70 or a 4502, sorry, which is kind of ungainly to use and has a lot of armor up front. And in general, that is true on this tank. But you will notice one interesting thing about it. It is almost a mid-turret tank. So it doesn't have quite as much trouble going around corners as, say, a 4502 does, or even the tank before it, the ISM. It's not as grossly rear-turreted. You can see the gun itself is actually fairly far forward, and that's a big deal because it fights a lot more comfortably. Now, it's still a little bit ungainly because of that. It does have a limited depression because of it, but I just want to tell you, if you're really worried about the rear-turreted thing, it's really not that bad. We'll take a look at some of its competitors here at Tier 9. One thing you'll notice right away is it's got a very low profile silhouette. The IS is quite a bit taller. The Conqueror is just massive compared to it. Actually, it's kind of a squat little tank for a heavy. Object 257 is actually a little bit smaller, although slightly taller maybe, or maybe not. Little tiny package, so to speak. Of course, we got the ridiculousness of that thing and that thing. And if you look at, there's that rear turret. Now see, its gun is actually coming out midpoint on its hull on the 4502. When you look at the 705, the gun is about the 1/3 or 1/4 point. And that is very important for going around corners and even for side scraping, actually. This will have a slight advantage side scraping, although this one I think is a better side scraper. We'll talk about that as we go. You take a look at the E75 and it's quite tall as well. Other things to notice about the 705 in the overview here is it is a sloped front, quite sloped front, and it's got the flat lower plate. It is not a pike nose. It's got this kind of weird angled armor right here. We'll take a look at what that does to it in tanks.gg. Potentially situational weak spots on it. The turret is very thick. We'll get into that. Very rounded, very difficult to pin, especially from the front. And the tracks are they're decently wide and will eat heat pretty good on the side scrape front right there. So there you go for the overview. Let's go ahead and jump into the tech tree and some considerations for you there. Okay, in the tech tree, you got the Object 705 right here at Tier 9. It is led into by the ISM, back to the IS and the KB85 to the 1S, up from the KB1. The 1S has 5 crew member. Everything from 85 IS, ISM, all the way to the 705 is 5 crew members. You're going to lose the radio operator as you go to the KB85. The point of that is your crew from the ISM will move straight into the 705, no problemo, and you can start grinding the 705. If we take a look at this right here, this is kind of interesting. I actually had to play this more or less stock. When I unlocked the 705, I had the radio, so the radio is shared with something else. I actually had the 122BL13 1A, which is a Tier 10 gun, not as good as the top gun, not as good as the 130mm, but I had that one. And the reason I had that gun is if you have the 257 fully upgraded, the Object 257 shares the same gun. So depending on how all that change went down, if you were one of the people who got the 257 as a replacement, you got everything unlocked, which means your 705, when you unlock it, will come with the 122BL13-1A already unlocked. Otherwise, you've got to go through 2 guns, a turret, and another gun before you can get the top gun. I thought that was kind of an interesting way to do it. I did not have the tracks, and I did not have the engine. Realize you need the tracks to put the turret and the big gun on, so you might as well get those first. You can't even put the turret on. You might be able to take some equipment off. I didn't try to do that, but I did know with fully equipped out, I needed tracks to put those 2 bad boys on, and it's about 25 grand for each one of these things, so it's a bit of a grind to get up there. The BL13-1A is entirely usable for this tank. We'll talk about it a little while later, but it does 440. The stock gun's a little bit painful. It's essentially the gun from the ISM, the Top Gun, 212 pin and 240 with gold. That's going to hurt a little bit, especially on a big, relatively slow tank like this. But getting through that's going to cost you quite a bit as well. Try to get to this 122 BL13-1A. In fact, I would not do any of these. The first thing I would do if I came in this completely stock is grab that gun right there. And off you go. And it leads to the 705A with 160,000 experience or so. That's really it for the tech tree. All right, let's talk about the comparison amongst its peers. As usual, for each one of these, I have put 100% crew in it. I've stripped out all of the skills and perks, stripped out all the equipment, taken off the paint, and anything like food that might improve any of these stats. So it is essentially the basic, fully upgraded tank, all the upgraded modules with 100% crew, just to make them all the same across the board as far as what you're looking at. So if we look at it, you can see that its firepower is actually on the low side if you consider the wargaming number at 333. Looks like it may be actually just about, if not worst in class. That was interesting to me. It's got a 490 Alpha, which is tied for number one with a couple of the German tanks and the Wheezy 111 over there. Penetration is okay, a little bit higher than most. Not bad at all for the standard round. Rate of fire is on the low side. Only the two German tanks are going to be slower on the rate of fire. You see, consequently, the reload time is relatively high. Again, only the German tanks are worse. Turret traverse is right in there. It's not Conqueror fast, but it's okay. And it's not as painfully slow as the two German tanks over there. Gun depression is going to hurt it. -5 is not great. And you're going to find a lot of spots on World of Maps tanks, that it's going to be painful to use this thing. So you do have to be cognizant of the bad gun depression. When HD maps come out and things get flattened out, it'll be interesting to see if that still is an issue or not. But even so, even with a small rise, -5 is hard to use. The aiming time is actually not bad, and I'm surprised that it's a little bit worse than the Object 257, and the dispersion's even worse at .42. This gun actually feels pretty darn comfortable, and I have taken a lot of very comfortable, quick snapshots and accurate shots with it. So to me, it seems to shoot better than it looks, and that may have a lot to do with play style. I get up close and personal. Maybe it's not quite the sniper, but clearly it's not Conqueror level of 1.82 aim time with a .32 dispersion, which is completely out of control. The average damage per minute is on the low side at 2,086. Only the two German tanks are worse. And the hit points, getting onto the hit points then and the survivability. 2,000, which is top of the class, but only by 100 hit points, or 80, or 50 in the case of the two German tanks. The whole armor was interesting. The front is quite thick, highly angled as I talked about. The side is not as much as I had thought initially when I started playing the tank, but it still does a decent job of side scraping even with 90. So enough angle, you're going to get an effective armor quite thick, and it's going to be difficult for things to punch through. But it's not the same side scraping capability as the 4502, where he can bring his turret to bear much easier. Because you're not quite a fully rear turreted tank, you are going to have to expose a little bit more of yourself, but you'll be less likely to expose the front of your tank like many of the front turreted tanks will when they attempt to side scrape and stick a lot of your rear end out of there. Where this thing really shines though is its turret armor. Look at that, 300. Not top in class because the 257 has that insane 350, but 300 is very serviceable for a hold down turreted tank that you are trying to, do the hold down peek-a-boom thing with. For the mobility, it's a top speed of 40. I tell you, it doesn't quite feel like that. That's actually on the high side for heavies, and that may be because the upgraded engine, I didn't have that for quite a long time. That was the last thing I unlocked. I'm only now starting probably the last 10 or 12 battles played with the upgraded engine. So maybe it is zippier now, but I got the feeling earlier that it was very sluggish, and that may have a lot to do with its acceleration and its hull traverse, which is absolutely abysmal at 25. Not quite as bad as a 4502, but man, that can be painful, especially if you get into some of that mucky terrain, trying to turn the hull. Holy cow. along with the not upgraded engine. You may consider that perk with the driver where he can transverse or traverse faster. What I can't remember what it's called. The clutch braking, that's it. You may consider that for this tank. That may be a player fairly early if you want to be a little more maneuverable. And reverse speed of 15. Hey, it's tied for top in class, although everything seems to be having a 15 there. For concealment, yeah, you're not going to hide this guy. Yeah, he's better than most, but not great overall. And then view range at 380. Like most Russian tanks, it's not a fantastic view range. You're not going to be out spotting scouts, obviously, along the way. So what do we take from all of this? It doesn't really excel at any one thing. It's a decent side scraper. It has a good hit point pool. It hits sufficiently hard enough, but there's nothing here that I would hang my hat on and say it's fantastic, except for as a hold down fighter with its turret only showing. If you can get behind some rubble, side scrape out and expose just your turret, unless you're facing something with super high pen, and maybe they can get at the top of your hull or something, frontal hull, you're going to have a good time bouncing tanks all day long. Let's move on to the modeling at tanks.gg. Or here's the collision model on tanks.gg. We're looking straight onto the thing. You go over this and it's showing an effective armor of 246 and lower plate 213, which is not actually amazing. It is serviceable, but a lot of stuff at this tier is going to have the wherewithal to punch through. The lower plate is going to be especially dangerous for you to expose it. It's fairly thin, so it is difficult to hit depending on how you're maneuvering, but straight on is probably not your best friend. You can see that the turret is just outstanding all the way around, almost impossible to pin. There is kind of a lighter or a thinner top, but that's an overmatching situation, and it still may not be possible depending on the size of your gun. In fact, it's 60 millimeter of thickness, so triple overmatching is going to be 180 millimeter. That's going to be very difficult. However, an HE shell up there is going to have a better time, obviously, than punching into here, if you can hit that little tiny sliver. You see that the side then, depending on the angle, if we angle it right here as we're doing a side scrape and we don't expose our lower plate, then we've got some pretty strong side armor right here. Now, this little flat thing is what I talked about. It is problematic as you start to angle it. It flat plates it out, and you can see that it gets less and less effective armor as far as the percentage chance. But the front, if it's angled, gets a lot better. The higher the angle, the better it is. It's easier to see, as I've shown before, if we go to the live model right here. You can see that this is fairly easy to pin right here. You got a green and a yellow, 220 and 250 or so right here. But if you go to the turret, that's where it shines. Look how thick that turret is. And then if we angle it, you can see that about right there, you're getting about the best you can get at all different directions. It gets really crazy back here. You're still even going to have a hard time getting through this turret as you flat plate some of the rounded part of it just a little bit. But you'll notice that as we roll it a little bit more angled, that this becomes a more problematic situation, this little flat plate right here. If you're a little higher, it's going to be better, but if you're on his level, it's going to be a little bit worse. You can see that as you get even further over, then, like most tanks on the side, you're going to have issues there. I think that's spaced armor right there. Don't quote me. There is a piece of model right there, and I wasn't able to track down whether there's actually spaced armor going on there. I realize that if it is, that you've got heat problems. To be honest, I'm not quite sure. You can fix me in the comments down below on that one. And then, of course, you get these very highly angled pieces here, which, in theory, no one should really be trying to shoot there, but I just wanted to show you that situational point there. And that is the model on tanks.gg. For my setup, what you can see is that I have the top modules. I am using the top gun. I see absolutely no reason to use anything but the top gun on this tank once you have it unlocked. I'm running vents, a vert stab, and a rammer. I think that's a pretty standard setup for a heavy tank. I don't see any reason to use anything else on that. I'm running 18, 8, and 4. If you want to try hard, you could use a few more APCR. I cut that down a little bit from the ISM because the pen on the regular AP is actually pretty good. If we go over here to the gun, it's easier to see what's going on. It's got a 250 and a 303 with the gold round with the APCR, so actually pretty decent. I'm running large kits on this one. I have a whole bunch of extras. I'll do try hard as far as that goes with the 705 running large kits in it. Try to reduce the number of times it gets critical hits in there. It tends to like to get crew members dead, and maybe that's because I get hit by HE all the time. That could be it. I haven't seen a real problem with any other modules. Maybe ammo racks, but it's not usual, so I don't see any huge issues with that. Fires, I've run an automatic fire extinguisher. I think I've been set on fire in this once, maybe in 50-something battles that I can remember. So that is the basic setup for that. Moving on to stats. So far, how have I done in the tank? Low sample size at 57 battles, 67%. I would expect that to normalize closer to 60% for my play. 67 is a little bit high. I was running in the high 70s for a while, but for a while at 10 to 20, 30 battles is really just more luck than anything. Still, though, pretty happy with that. 1,100 average experience. That's actually going pretty well as well. Any new tank, as long as I'm running above 1,000 experience, anywhere from tier like 6, 7, or 8, maybe more like 7 or 8, because the lower tiers you have a harder time getting 1,000 experience a game. But if I'm averaging 1,000 at tier 8, 9, or 10, I'm feeling pretty good about what's going on. 66% win rate, 1.76 damage, destruction is 3.07, doing well on that. You can see the armor use efficiency is at 0.97. My ISM was at about 0.7 after 100 games. So we'll see if that comes down. I suspect it might a little bit by the time I get to 100 battles, but that bodes well. 0.97 means the armor is working and my positioning is working pretty well. Anytime you approach 1.0 on your armor efficiency for an armored tank, you're using your armor well, provided you're also dishing out damage, right? You're not just taking hits and angling the best you can and getting wiped out. 2,605 is on the slightly high side for me as an average damage for tier 9s. I would expect that to normalize. It may come down a little bit more. My received is pretty decent. It's below my hit points, so that's always a good thing. Assisted damage, 0.95. Yeah, that's pretty high, I guess, for relatively for a heavy, but I do tend to bring it towards the front. This vehicle really needs to be close to its work. 1.46 enemy vehicles destroyed, and I've managed a whole Top Gun in there with only 5,283. So while for me, my average damage is pretty good at 2605, I haven't had that breakout 7,000 or 8,000 damage game yet in this. And 5,283, in fact, was one I just had probably 2 or 3 games ago. So that's only been recently. But plenty of 3,000 and 4,000 damage games. But clearly, with 2,600, plenty of 1,500 and 500, and I think a couple 0 damage games where I just got absolutely obliterated before I could do anything. A couple 3 of those while it was stock, and I was struggling a little bit with it early. But those are my stats so far, going pretty decently. All right, for the first example, you can see I've actually got the stock turret on this when I first unlocked the tank, and I have that tier 10 gun on it, the BL-13 thing. So I don't have any stock games for you with the lowest gun. I would recommend doing that as little as possible. Obviously, you're going to have to grind through it. If you have free experience, by all means, use it. If you have the 257, you have this gun and you're good to go. What I don't have here is the tracks, I don't have the engine, and I don't have the turret. So off we go. You can see that, interestingly, this middle gun is heat for the gold round, and the top gun is APCR for the gold round. Somebody was saying hello to me and asked me if I was streaming. I said, no, I just do YouTube. That way I can only show my good games. All right, here we go. I guess I am just looking forward for some reason. I must have been typing. Oh, that's right. A little advertising, telling them what my channel name is. And then I got about 800 subs right after that. Well, maybe 1. I hope. I got 1. Okay, so we are here on whatever this place is called. Corellia. I should know that after 6 years. We're on Corellia. We're on attack. We're on the assault. Got an LTTB going in there. And I'm going to come up here. I've just got this tank, so I'm going to think, all right, what kind of capability does this thing have as a brawler? Can I get in here and just start wrecking face? Or am I just a big paper tiger? Uh-oh. I'm feeling paper tigerish. All right, he went down to the lower plate and pinned me. So you're going to have that happen. You can't just go sticking your face out. This is a bit smarter on my part. There you go. A little angle. Rocking back and forth a little bit. Make it a little more difficult for him to just find your lower plate. No, 44, don't do it. Oh. Daggum ya. Hey, I bounced him. Alright, so side scraping out. Oh, somebody's behind me. Hello. Sorry, fella. 100.01. And so, on this map, if they stuff you here too long, and you take too long poking and prodding and getting hammered by all the camperometers back there, and that really helped. That kind of changed. That kind of made my decision. He's dead. I'm thinking, alright, oh, there goes the 100.1. You know what? Let's go. He fired. Let's take this guy down. Oh, of course I get hit. Artillery. He got a twofer. 4502. Let's see, can I make it? Don't get me, fellas. Every time I'm hitting the side, it's a track. Every single time. And now the Comet is shooting at my tracks, a little punk. Oh boy, all the arty. All the arty. Let's see if I can get this guy. Nope. Of course you're stunned, so your aim is worse. Alright, good. Got my tracks back. Really trying to get to this rock, and my goodness, I'm slow. So you can see with the not top engine and being stunned, the tank can be very painful as far as maneuvering goes. So we'll just dive down into here. This is something that a lot of people don't understand. Sometimes you've just got to use a few of your hit points to get a position. Now, there's a lot of players who refuse to do that at any point, and I do understand where they're coming from. They'll figure it out. They'll use time. But in a time-critical game like this, where you only have 10 minutes, sometimes you don't have that time to rock back and forth. And a lot of people will turn this mode off, and that is actually one of the reasons right there. Not enough time to farm damage. There's other reasons, but that is one of them. So I'm going to come up here, and really what you're trying... Of course the Comet ammo racks me, which blows my mind. Fix it, and now we got to go up here and see if we can't get rid of this 4502. What do we got up here? Alright, let's see if we can kill this dude. Nope, because for some reason I pressed 3 along the way, probably trying to fix something like a complete bozo, and I lose hit points I did not need to lose because he should be dead if I was paying any kind of attention whatsoever to what I was loaded with. This is a personal issue that I have had and continue to try to fix, and it is not easy. So I'm going to come around here, my side pointing to him, and finally get my nose ring. You see how slow the rotation is on the tank as far as hull traverse. It can be very painful. I owe you big time. Down you go. And excuse me. And now I've got a T-30 that's right there. At any moment he's going to poke around, but I think, alright, I got the side of a 4502, so watch me just shoot my heat into his side. And his tracks will eat it. Holy cow, T-30 wants to shoot me. Thank you, Comet. Cupid, Donner, Blitzen. Oh, golly. HTC bounces. I'm not in a great spot now. I don't want to stick my nose out too much. And I bounce a T-30. Holy cow. Probably hit my turret. And that's that gun handling I talked about. It actually seems a lot more comfortable than the stats indicate. The next gun's even better. There, the T-30 takes a hit. I'm going to come back here. Alright, now I'm going to get this 4502 this time. He's not looking. Let's see what happens here. We'll just pop one into his side. Checking forward. Nope, he's running behind a rock because that's what he knows how to do. He basically has not left that rock the entire game. That is his rock. There are many like it, but that one is his. Now I'm going to come up here. I'm getting a little aggressive. I know that T-30 wants to get around and pop me. I'm going to come over here and see if I can't get this guy, but I think he's looking at me. No, he's not looking at me. Let's see, what's he doing? Ooh. Oh, yeah. There we go. Oh, no, T-30. So the side of the turret, he actually pops me in the side of the turret right there, which is definitely going to be weaker. Down I go. So 3.920 on the damage. 2,430 blocked and 603 on the spotting. We end up winning this battle. You know, on this map, it's really about getting up in their face. They are always going to camp. I will never, ever understand people who have played a lot of World of Tanks who cannot figure out that the way you win World of Tanks is reducing the other team's hit points first. And you don't do that by clumping up in a corner. There's just too many crossfire opportunities. As far as that goes for the game design, the devs have a pretty good handle on that on most maps. That just hiding in corners, there's enough angles and ways to get at them that they can't do it. And that's a good thing. Otherwise, it'd be extremely painful. And if it was true that defenses like that happened and worked all the time, then Arty would have a place. Oh, wait a minute. This is not about Arty. This is a review of the Object 705. Let's move on to the second example. On to our second example. You can see that I have now upgraded. I've got the top turret and the big gun on it now. You can see that my gold is now APCR and not heat. We have loaded into Windstorm on the northeastern spawn, and I'm headed into the town. And we'll go on in here. This is the usual alleyway I take. I need to stop using it, and I'm going to show you exactly why here in just a minute. I think most people know. As far as an approach goes to get into the middle, it's not great. It's just a longer trek to go the other way, but it is definitely a safer trek to go the other way. So I recommend not using this, and you're about to find out why. That guy right there, bam. So he shoots me as I cross. That was fantastic. And we'll move on over here. And I make another dumb move. Hey, let's cross again. Because why not? So I got away with one right there. Got away with one right there. Do what I say, not what I do. Do what I say, not what I do. So I'm going to come... Now we've got these guys from two directions. Got the E-75 on one side, me on the other. Oh, there's this guy, and he's reverse side scraping, and I lose that exchange big time. I'm trying to figure out where he hit me. I'm not exactly sure, to be honest. I don't really want to side scrape or challenge the Type 4, because he's going to actually go through me, no problem. Not through me, but HE me. So I'm a bit at a loss right now. I got these guys here. Oh, that's helpful. Ammo racked the Type 4. The 705, at least one of them's a little further off. So I'll come up here. He's backing off, backing off. There we go. Oh! Oh my god. I'm trying to get a shot on that guy. Holy cow. I think the E-75 is a little irritated by me, as well he should be. And it's one of the reasons I don't particularly like being second in echelon. That kind of thing happens all the time. There we go. So I go into that side spot on the 257. We're in a bit of a pickle. We got guys behind us on our side. We got three guys right here. One of them's a T95. So things are not going great. Put a shot into his lower plate. That's a weak spot. You can see angling right there helps me out against the T10. And there's a hammer blow from the T30 and somebody else, the T10. So they've fired. I'm going to come in here. Enough angling there to bounce the 5.7. And what I need to be doing is reverse. There we go. So I need to come out sideways. T30, I believe, is shooting HE or soon will. There he is. And fire him, and down he goes. So still a little behind. They're up into our cap, and that's a problem. Come around here. I do have my eye on that, and I expect to have to deal with it pretty soon. But we got the E-75. So I take a shot off of him, and he's more or less down to a one shot if I get a decent roll. So I'm waiting for him to either push. I'm going to try a reverse side scrape here, see if I can end this thing. Oh, it's into the wall. Of course it is. And I was not helped by being bumped by my 257 buddy, who is now jamming up behind me, which I cannot figure out. Dude. Alright, so now he's fired. I can come in here fully aimed. No, I'm going to hit directly on the pike, the strongest part of the armor, and fail to go through. So that was painful. I may take another hit from him if I'm not careful. He's doing the same thing I'm doing. There we go. And 257 is still doing I don't know what. Give him a little shove to announce my irritation. Things are going a little bit better. I have not been a good teammate in there as I hit the E-75, and then the 257 was not a good teammate, so I guess we're even. Coming back here, seeing what's going on with the 705, but I've also noticed that that 49 is now unfettered in the background there. And that's got me a little bit worried. But for the moment, I'm seeing if I can't find a shot here somewhere. If he jumps on cap, I know I've got to do something about it, and I'm unsure right now. I don't want to also push in too far here because there are enough tanks up there, a couple 705s, 257. There's a lot of beef in there that can hurt us. I'm trying to get around this guy. And that is just what you call a lucky shot. I'll back using the Type 4 as cover. Come out looking for a shot. I know that there's a, yeah, there he is. There's a 705. I bounce him. Got enough angle there to keep him honest. Still haven't heard from the 49. I'm curious what he's up to, but we're starting to turn this thing around in here. We got these two over here cornered. I'm just looking for my next shot. You really have to be careful. 2 hits and I'm out. 1 hit and I'm effectively out because it'll be very difficult to do any kind of pushing. And there we go. So the T-49 has jumped on. I'm going to head out this way. I don't notice anybody going back, and quite frankly, I'm one of the fastest tanks left, so I'll just head back this way. Our T-49 doesn't seem interested in going back and dealing with it. He's still futzing around. He may be pinned down by that E-75, but down goes the E-75, down goes the T-49. Object's crying for help, but we need to get rid of this dude first. The Malshin has actually come back, so that's going to turn out to be helpful. I'm going to approach the cap. There's a little mound right there, so the Malshin has seen him. There's a little mound right there, and you can get around the back of him. The problem is that you will get proxy lit before you get around the corner, and since I'm not very fast, this will give the T-49 time to react to me being there. But as you can see, it's not fast. It can get where you need to be. There we go. So we got him reset. He knows he can't go towards the Malshin. So what he's going to do is try to track me, which he actually ends up doing. He's going to make a run for it. I'm going to spin my hole in my tank, and come on, gun, get down. Oh, there's that depression being depressing. But I do get up that hill just enough that I get the gun on him and able to auto-aim kill him. And for a wonder, I actually hit it. What am I doing here? I'm just trying to avoid getting whacked by artillery. And now back into the fray. And that was a decent kill anyway, because a fast T-49, when he's got support of a couple heavies keeping us pinned down, they can be very irritating by moving around behind people and taking pot shots. But the good news is the heavies in town, and especially the 430, who had a pretty good game, have done a good job, have surrounded those guys and killed them, and now we've just got to find this 430 that's been raging around, causing problems, and avoid getting nuked by the artillery. So I'll head back into town. The Malshin's gone back to cap. That's not a bad move in case the 430 decides to do something. And holy cow, how did the 430 kill the other one without being spotted on this map? I suspect the other one poked his rear end around a corner, or was coming around a corner and the 430 shot him before he got a vision point around the corner. Something like that. There's some goofiness happened right there. But based on where ours died, I know he's around here. Yep, there he goes. So he knows I see him. Now this is interesting, because I go this way, and I see he's moving. And I zoom out to kind of look at his relative movement. I'm thinking, I think he's turning around. Yep. And I was kind of hoping he didn't see me stop or notice that I had started turning around. So I thought, you know what, I think he's trying to be tricky. I'm actually going to not knock down this tree, just in case he already happens to be looking. I'm going to come around this corner with my front end pointing. No, didn't see him there. So I don't want to go sticking my sides across that T intersection. So in case he's actually going all the way around, I don't see him here. Let's go see if he's going all the way around back, thinking he's getting behind me. Yep, he was. There he is. I've also got the 257 that's got him cut off from that direction. I'll take this at my leisure. I can come around here, put as much of my front to the thing as I can, whatever I'm trying to say, as much of the front of my tank as I can, but he's still able to get into. I didn't quite do it right. If I had to do over again, I may have actually just stuck my nose into it and side scraped out. That may have preserved that last hit right there. I'm just going to be ultra careful. I really just don't want to get nuked by the artillery. That cost me a little bit as far as being able to get a shot, but I don't get a shot because he's way over here down in the pit, and one of these guys ends up killing him. So 4.3k on the damage, only 680 block. A couple kind of critical mistakes made by me, giving away early hit points because of a bad approach to a position. Bad side scraping initially, but recovered and ended up doing a pretty decent game with 4 kills and 4,341. You can see that with the upgraded tank, it actually has some capability as a brawling kind of tank. You know, they build it as this heavily armored forward assault tank. It really isn't that. It's not. It's got the hit points for it. It's got the turret for it, but the hull lets it down quite a bit. However, if you can manage that correctly, it can be quite a brawling tank. Let's move on to the third example. For the third example, this ends up being the best game I've had in the tank so far. Loaded into Ruinberg, and I am middle tier in a 357. This is a great map for this kind of tank. Get going a little bit here. Whoa. Let the T-54 zing by. We'll just go forward here. Head across here. Should have had my turret looking right just in case something appeared, but it didn't look like anything was. So I look at the setup right here, and we've got an FV. He's going to be problematic if he comes up here and side scrapes. So initially I'm going to be careful. And we got this big TD poking in here, and this Pershing's kind of in the way. So we'll work a little side scrape action with this guy and test out how good this side scrape capability is. And I'm able to just soak up through the tracks anyway. At least he tracked me. And now we're going to cross, because I don't think they really pushed much into the middle. Take a quick shot on that guy and miss by a mile. Not a super accurate gun. What I'm concerned about is the FV. And I see the E75 right there, and I kind of figured that FV will be here, but so I want to be careful. I know at least this 113 FT or GF, whatever, 113 GFT is here. And I'm going to have trouble even with my gold punching through his upper superstructure, because that thing is very difficult to get through. And I noticed that the FV is actually over on the other road there, so I hit the other, man, they're all FVs and WZs and whatnot. I hit the 4202 because he was a shot of opportunity. I had to be quiet while I aimed. Aim in that little weak spot there, and I'm able to get that shot. And that guy reloads fairly quickly for the tank that he is. Unfortunately, I'm tracked, and I just can't get reloaded in time. But I'll come around here, try to put one into him, and I get it. And that's what I was talking about. The gun is actually, handling-wise, at these kind of ranges, pretty good. It's pretty good. So I'm trying to get the kill shot on this guy, see if I can take him down. And nope, not enough. 220, so there's no way I was going to kill that dude. I rolled a 440, which is pretty low, but I wasn't going to do another 220 on him, and then he gets another shot in my track, so you can see he's having a little trouble getting me there. Shot of opportunity on the Pershing, and that's what I was trying to talk about earlier about the 4202. Sometimes somebody just gives you a shot of opportunity and you got to take it. And holy cow, the 257 is shooting HE, fantastic. I'll hit him right up under the pike nose. And now I'm down to regular AP. A little bit weak over here. I've got the T95, but he's kind of busy with the P Victoria and the T30, so I kind of have to be careful poking my nose too far down this rabbit hole here. The 252 is spamming HE at me. That's fine. I'd rather do that than have him get a shot in on me with his higher damage shots. That guy missed, and I miss as well. And all of a sudden now I've got the T30, and I'm thinking, oh, now we're in big trouble. Big trouble right here. Hammers me. And I'm lucky he's also firing HE. Otherwise, I'd have been down many, many more hit points. We'll come back here. 257's trying to use some cover. And it's time to retreat a little bit. Let the T95 maybe move in and work. Let's come back over here. See if I can't get some shots on guys over here. I have a little bit of trouble getting my palsy to work out, trying to get a shot on this silly thing. Get a shot on him. He starts moving around. I figure one of these guys is going to kill him pretty quick, but he doesn't. He actually sneaks into that hole. And I probably need to leave him alone. And see, the Pershing dies because I'm not over there doing my thing. Unsure why I was still kind of keeping him there, but or poking out anyway. A little bit of a rush shot, so he finally gets another hit on me with his HE. I ran into a lot of HE spammers on this game, which is good because I probably would be gone if any of them had been able to pen with the AP round, especially considering the amount of damage those various tanks do if they were shooting HE, or sorry, AP. I noticed this guy's actually got his turret turned the other way, so I'll take a shot of opportunity in the back of his nugget. Now it's time to push in. This is just clean up on aisle 2. Down goes that one. Down goes the 113 GFT. 4502 is here. Down he goes. Come around for the Pershing. Can't quite get there. And we'll speed this up. These guys jump on the cap, which I can't quite figure out why those fast tanks didn't just keep going. Those two did, but everyone's going to pile on behind me. And I'm going to ask them no cap. Wish I hadn't stopped, but I did. And a couple of them oblige, which is nice. And this is why I always drive to where I think the damage is going to be. Because what I'm going to be able to do here is get one more shot in of 505 damage that I wouldn't have got had I jumped on cap and helped them cap, or had I just kind of stopped and not done anything. I took one of the slower heavies in the game and kept on driving until I got near to the damage. So I ended up with 5,283, 2,640 blocked. I would actually call that a little more since I forced guys to use HE. In the case of the ones I forced, it may be that just some of those guys shoot HE because that's what they do. At least in the case of the 113 FT who shot AP at me several times, he switched. And that in itself is something of a victory because that is going to lessen, while it's automatic damage and you're not going to be able to bounce it, it's going to lessen the damage that you might otherwise get on a pin. A couple ways to look at it there anyway. So pretty good example of the brawling capability of this tank. You know, it's not the greatest brawler out there, but it's actually pretty decent. And if you can get in a good side scrape kind of mentality, a decent accuracy on the gun, nice strong turret, there's a lot of things that can work for it. A lot of people don't really know how to handle it right now. That's why sometimes you end up getting spammed with HE, that kind of thing. So there'll be a learning curve. People get a little better with it. But that was the third example. Well, overall for the 705, I like this tank. I don't like to do the ratings, you know, 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10. But it is a solid tier 9 heavy tank. I don't think it's quite the spearhead brawler that I think they may have intended it to be, but it's not far from it. I do like that it actually has a lower plate weak point on the front. And then it's got these kind of situational side weak points depending on what angle you're coming at the tank. So unlike some of the other newer ones where there are no weak points, this one at least has some. The turret is formidable. It's not quite 257 levels of formidable, but it is quite formidable. And if you can do a decent side scrape job or just get some cover to cover up your hole, then you're going to have a pretty good day with that turret out there. One of its limiting factors is its speed, like any of the heavies. If the battle moves past you too quickly or the battle's moving too fast for you to get to as far as flexing, you can be limited in that case. But on kind of static battles like the last one that you saw, where everything happens within 100 meters for most of the big fight, then you're probably in pretty good shape. The second example was somewhat like that, a little longer range because that's how that map plays out. But you can see that even though I'm relatively slow, it does have enough speed to get back, reset, and then get back into the fight, provided the conditions are right for that. It's not medium, a medium as far as flexing goes, of course. So, decent tank. I have enjoyed it. I'm still grinding up to the 705A. I'll do a review on that when I get to it. And that is all I got, fellas. As always, thanks for tuning in and supporting the channel, and we will see you.